everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and on Facebook Live. I'm your host, Scott Cordisci. Glad you could join us. The Mike Martin Show brought to you each week by United Healthcare. You put care into everything that you do. United Healthcare does too. United Healthcare, health plans that care for you and your family every step of the way. See what care can do at uhc.com. Well, coming up on the show tonight, we'll be joined by a pair of juniors on this year's team. The reigning Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year, Jalen Gainey, will be our guest, along with David Mitchell. And then in our Alumni Spotlight, we'll be joined by Rich Friedman from the class of '79. But first things first, let's say hello to my co-host for this show and for Brown basketball on AM 790 from the class of '71, Russ Tyler. Russ, how you doing tonight?
Hey, great, Scott. Another great list of people being on the show today. Good to see you and good to see Mike.
Great to see you again, Russ. And Coach Martin, welcome to your show as well. How are you doing tonight?
Guys, great to see you both. The weather's turning. What a week of weather we have. And can't wait for the upcoming tournament. Excited to watch conference tournaments this week and obviously the NCAA tournament next week. And we'll be thinking the entire time that a year from now we'll be getting ready to see the Brown Bears in that NCAA tournament.
Yeah, if you're a college basketball junkie like the three of us on this Zoom call are, this is such a fun week. Conference tournament week, Selection Sunday, leading right into the NCAA tournament, which this year will all be held in Indianapolis. And it's unfortunate that the Ivy League not a part of that. We get it, but like you said, you hope for the future. But Coach, just talk about that. You know, the excitement of Conference Championship Week. Every night seems to be a championship game on, or such a critical game, and then you have Selection Sunday when teams are on the edges of their seat, wanting to know who's going to get those final at-large bids. It's a great time to be a college basketball fan.
It is, and it's what you work all year for. All off season is for this month and these opportunities. And you know, when you see your name on that NCAA tournament selection show, it's a feeling you can't describe. And I've been fortunate enough to experience it as an assistant coach. Can't wait to have that happen for our student athletes here at Brown and for our university and all the people that do so much to support our program. But yeah, I've watched a lot of college basketball this year. Certainly will be tuned in for the rest of this month, and just trying to see how we can, what we can learn and what we can pick up to help our program here at Brown and continue to help us take that next step.
And Mike, March 10th, obviously, I want to mention just a couple of things, important date for a couple of reasons. One is happy birthday to Tegan Martin. And secondly, it's been exactly 52 weeks since your final show last year, but now there's more light at the end of the tunnel. Tegan first.
Well, happy belated birthday to Russell, your grandson. They're 3 days apart, but yeah, I think we all remember like it was yesterday, that final radio show at Hope Street Pizza right before things shut down. That was the Wednesday when Rudy Gobert tested positive, and basically the whole sports world shut down in the next 24 hours. But fortunately, I think there's light at the end of this tunnel. I think we all agree. Vaccines continue to be distributed and put in people's arms, and we've certainly missed out on competing this year, but we're looking forward to better days and getting back into competition. I can tell you that the time in the gym with our student athletes this spring semester has been amazing, and we're working hard to prepare for next year. The development from our guys has been substantial, and we're hopeful that we're ready for a great year next year.
And Coach, some big news for Brown Athletics this past week since our last show. The university has hired a new leader for the athletic department. She is currently serving as the director of athletics at Penn. Grace Calhoun will be coming on board, and I know we're all excited about that.
She will, yeah, and she'll be the vice president of athletics. She'll be a member of President Paxton's senior cabinet, which I think is a great opportunity for certainly Grace, but it's also a tremendous signal from President Paxton, from our corporation, about the direction we want to go as an athletic department. Grace will, I think, use her very good experience at previous stops, whether it was Loyola Chicago, University of Pennsylvania, as an athletic director, to help lead this department. And we all know how great I feel about Jack Hayes and his partnership with our program, and I look forward to working with Grace to really help take this program forward and our entire athletic department. And I've had some conversations with her already, and I'm thrilled to welcome her. and can't wait to start working with her.
And Mike, in the press release, there was one sentence that stood out, at least to me, and I'm going to quote it. Calhoun arrived at Penn from Loyola University, Chicago, where she was director of athletics and assistant vice president, credited with setting in motion Loyola's men's basketball Final Four run in 2018. We're going to hold her to that same standard here at Brown.
So I think minimum Final Four, hopefully national championship. No, but I mean, I think, obviously she hired Porter Moser, who's a dear friend of mine. And it's just, they're ready to go on another deep run this year. I've followed his program closely, and I have great confidence in Grace that she's going to do everything she can to help lead our department. And again, her track record is outstanding. And she's also a Brown alum, ever true, right? Ran track and field here, former student athlete. Just a great addition to our university.
Coach, getting back to something you said earlier, we can now start to see the light at the end of this pandemic tunnel. President Biden mentioned that maybe by the end of June, the entire country could be vaccinated. But even your team is starting to, I guess, be able to do a little bit more, right? Athletic teams on campus, because some restrictions have been eased. You're able to do a little bit more now in practice than maybe you were just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so just last Friday night, we received approval to start working on some close drills. We're still not able to do inter-squad scrimmaging, but they've allowed us to not have to socially distance in all the drills we're doing. So, for example, we can start looking at how to, guard a ball screen or guard different offensive actions, and maybe looking at how to read different defensive coverages from an offensive standpoint. So, still not scrimmaging. But have been able to at least see a body in front of you and make the appropriate read offensively. I do think that's so important in the game of basketball, and it's been a welcome addition. We're grateful to the leaders on campus who've made that possible, and I think that our players are benefiting from it.
And Mike, you mentioned, I think a little bit earlier, watch a lot of games on TV and so forth. So when I watch games on TV, I say, well, that's a nice dunk, that's a nice jump shot and so forth. But really, you're using it for ideas, for educational purposes, really, so you can maybe take some of the things you're watching and implement them with the Bears as appropriate, right?
We're trying. It takes me a little longer, Russ. I have the advantage that I can pause and rewind and go back on some of the video because it takes me 3 or 4 or 5 times to see it to figure out what they're doing. But no, I think, there's so many great coaches out there. There's so many great programs that are doing, really innovative and creative things on, both offense, defense, how they manage their team, and, how they motivate their players. What can we pick up? We can't change everything. We've got to stay true to who we are as a program. We've also got to understand what the strengths and weaknesses are of our student athletes. So just because we see, maybe a program in the SEC run a certain offensive set or have a certain philosophy doesn't necessarily mean it will carry over to what we're going to do here at Brown with our personnel. But there's a lot to learn, and if we're not learning, we're not growing. And we want to be someone that a program that is constantly growing and developing and evolving.
Coach, you mentioned Loyola Chicago a little bit earlier, and we talked about what an exciting time of year this is. It must be fun for you to see your friends like Porter and like Coach Gallagher at Hartford playing such big games, and in Porter's case, making it to the NCAA tournament, and Coach Gallagher's case, playing for the America East title. That has to be fun for you to watch.
It's awesome. And I'm so grateful, without having games this season, those guys have kept me involved and kept me engaged with their programs, whether it be, watching their practice film or watching their game film and giving my thoughts on them or maybe an upcoming opponent. And, I've learned so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to stay engaged. I'm grateful for all that I've learned from my conversations with them. They both have been great mentors to me. And obviously Ed over at PC as well. I've been following the Friars and rooting for them to make a great run here in the Big East tournament. But with no Brown basketball, I've become the biggest fan of some of those guys.
And Mike, the situation with transfers, not that this applies to Brown so much, but just with Division I basketball, Is it going to be a wild off season into the summer and into next year with kids going wherever they want to and so forth and being able to play immediately?
Yeah, it's a great question. If these last 4 to 6 days are any indication, it seems like every 5 minutes I get a new alert on my phone about a player who just entered the NCAA transfer portal. I have this this app Twitter, which everyone knows, but anytime a player jumps into the transfer portal, I get an alert on my phone, and it's been buzzing like nonstop the last few days. So there's a ton of, it's the landscape of college basketball right now. It's kind of what we're dealing with. I don't think that'll be the case here at Brown. I think we're going to continue to do everything we can to recruit the right type of student athletes that are going to fit our university, that are going to fit our program, that are going to advance our culture every single day, that they won't be leaving Brown. But certainly, you have to pay attention to it. You have to know what's out there. And if we can add to our program, we're still going to recruit primarily from high school ranks and prep school ranks. But if we can add to our program with a significant impact transfer, certainly we've had great success with Zach Hunsaker and Noah Marin, and now we have Tyler Brown, who's getting ready to join us. We'll do that, and we'll continue to turn over every rock in order to try to make this the best program it can be.
All right, Coach, what do you say we take a break and we do something that Russ Tyler never did in his 4 years as a player at Brown, and that is talk defense?
Let's do it. We got two great ones coming up.
We've got Jalen Gainey and David Mitchell set to join us, two outstanding defensive players. In fact, Jalen, the reigning Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year. They'll join us, and we continue with the Mike Martin Show right after this.
Elite Physical Therapy was founded on relationships and wanting to do the very best and elite by others.
Having our partnerships with institutions like the University of Rhode Island, Providence College, Brown University have made us proud to continue to serve the communities like they do.
I can say that I am incredibly proud of our team and our community.
Treating them, we know these people on a personal level.
Here at Elite, we really focus on the person and what's important to the person.
We love Rhode Island. We're living here. We're raising our families here.
You put care into everything you do. United Healthcare does too. Like connecting you to care whenever you need it. Because like you, United Healthcare knows what care can do.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we're not going to leave anything on our plates because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
Welcome back to the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and on Facebook Live. I'm your host, Scott Credisci. This portion of the program brought to you by the Brown University Sports Foundation. Through your donations and the work of our volunteers, the Brown Sports Foundation is committed to providing funding and support to Brown athletics to enhance the student-athlete experience. Thank you for your generosity and service to Brown athletics. Well, right now, it gives us great pleasure to welcome to the show. You know, Russ and Coach Martin, I've said for many, many years that one of my all-time favorite Bears is Jamie Kilburn, and I stand by that. But I got to be honest with you, these two guys that we're having on right now, they're at the top of my list of all-time favorite Brown Bears as well. Jalen Gainey and David Mitchell are with us. Jalen, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Jalen, thanks for being with us. David, how are you doing?
Great day. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being with us. And Coach, I'll tell you why I love these two guys. Defense, defense, defense. They are game changers on that end of the floor, and the effort's unbelievable. Of course, Jalen, the reigning Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year, and David, in my opinion, should be a candidate for that award as well, because he's probably one of the best on-ball defenders in this league. Coach, just your thoughts on these two and how they really dig in on that end of the floor.
Well, my thoughts, first of all, is time flies. I mean, I can't believe these guys are both getting ready to go into their senior season. It seems like just yesterday we started recruiting them, and we're just so fortunate that they both chose Brown. They both were so well raised by their families, their parents, and their values. I think align with our program's core values, and that's why I think they've flourished. Here at Brown, they've really developed. They're both so different than they were when they got here. They're both so much better on the court, off the court, and they're prepared for great success going forward. But specifically on the court, if we want to be an elite defense, we want to be the best defense in the Ivy League and one of the best defenses in the country. You have to have guys like these too. And obviously they both have incredible defensive ability. David can literally guard every position, and Jalen's as gifted of a rim protector as I've had, as we've had, as I've seen. And, obviously we have the all-time great in our league, and that's Cedric Kwakamensa. And Jalen and, Cedric are, so similar in so many ways. Cedric was the best at, covering up mistakes from the defense, and Jalen does the same thing.
Yeah, and David, with respect to your defensive abilities, being able to guard 1 through 5, I go back to last year. We're down at Penn. We're playing the Quakers in the Palestra, and you match up with A.J. Broder, Ivy League Player of the Year and one of Penn's all-time great players, and you neutralize him for a good chunk of that game. And then a couple weeks later, and he's 6'8" or 6'9", whatever he is. A couple weeks later, we go to Columbia, and they have Mike Smith at 5'10" or so. And you're out poking the ball away from him and deflecting passes and so forth. You have the mindset, the size, and the talent to guard 1 through 5. Just your thoughts on that.
I think a lot of it is about effort. As we both mentioned before, Marcus Smart is a guy who's about effort, and it's all about effort and intensity. And I think also just coach preparing us when we have practice, whether it's the Penn week or it's Columbia week, it prepares me, puts me in that position to sort of be prepared for what I'm going to see when it comes time for the game. And then when we get to the game, it's just about effort, as I just mentioned, and just being able to want to get those stops and want to be able to neutralize their better players to give our team the best chance to win.
Jalen, this seems like a long time ago, but I remember the last game of your freshman year when we were playing in the CBI out in Los Angeles at Loyola Marymount. You had 5 points and 3 blocks in that game, and Russ and I kind of looked at each other and said, the Bears have something here. That to me was really your coming out party. We knew that the Bears had something special in Jalen Gainey, and you didn't disappoint last year. You had games like the Merrimack game with 7 blocks, and again, named the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year. Can you just talk about your development that Coach talked about? You came in as kind of a skinny kid, and you worked hard in the weight room to put on that good weight, and just as a player, you've really developed over these past 2.5 years.
Thank you. First, it was more like physical. With the weight gain, I was like 183, and I put on about 20, 30 pounds. So that was like the first thing I had to do. And the second was like mentally. I had to like mentally prepare myself for like game situations and mentally prepare myself for being in college. And Coach Martin and the rest of the coaching staff really helped me in that aspect. They taught me that whenever I get a chance to go out there and play hard and do what I do best, and that they see something in me. So I just had to find it in myself.
And Jalen, on the other side of the ball, get down the other end of the floor, you shot 69% from the floor last year. How have you managed to improve your offensive game so much?
Pretty much just Coach Martin and TJ just working on me repetitive drills, like working on finishing, throwing the ball up high, making sure I'm able to catch it. It was pretty much most of them.
David, you mentioned Marcus Smart, and that is a guy that we have compared you to in the past. I really think that there's a lot of similarities in your game and what you bring to this team, like Marcus does to the Boston Celtics. And I look back to the end of last season. You started the last 2 games at Harvard and at Dartmouth. I think you had 10 rebounds in the win over the Crimson, but I don't think it's any coincidence that we won those 2 games because of your presence on the floor.
Yeah, I think that just part of staying ready, every day being prepared, every day, everybody, as we talk about, as our team values, and just being able to know that my time will come, and that when it comes, just to be ready to do my best on the floor and give our team the best chance to win. So I think just with those minutes that I had, I just wanted to be able to give all the energy I had, knowing that could have potentially been our last 2 games, depending on how it went that weekend.
But just to follow that up, David, if I could. So you talk about knowing your time would come. Some guys get all caught up in that, wanting to be a starter. To me, the effort's not different. When you're coming off the bench or when you're in the starting lineup, I know I'm getting the same 110% maximum effort from David Mitchell.
Yeah, and that's just the way I was brought up, the way I play the game of basketball. Every time I step on the floor, it's the same way. It's the same energy. I think I sort of developed that throughout high school with at Last Rivals AAU program, and also just my high school team, just both needing to play hard in order to be a winning program, and just knowing that playing hard is something that will separate you from the rest. Not everyone on the court plays hard. So I think that's a skill that I do my best to master.
Yeah, and Dave, we know you're a defensive stopper, no question about that, but your improvement or transformation at the offensive end was pretty impressive also. And you go from your freshman year, you shot 37% from the floor, 49% as a sophomore, 8% as a freshman from three, 40% as a sophomore, and at the line, 64% to 72%. Two things. One, you must spend a lot of time in the gym. And secondly, Coach Martin's got to get you the ball more, no?
I'm never going to say that, but it was a lot of time in the gym. I think that summer I got the opportunity to stay on campus that summer going into my sophomore year. And that just gave me the ample amount of time I needed to get in the gym, sort of to hone in on particularly my shooting skill. At the end of the year, we changed parts of my form. So I think the ball came out a lot smoother, a lot quicker. And I think just doing that, once I got the hang of that, just repping it out and continuous reps every day made me more comfortable and be able to be more confident in my shot and just knock it down when I got the chance.
Jalen, obviously, we were all disappointed when we learned that there would be no Ivy League season this year, and we certainly understand why. But, you know, I look at this year's team in particular, and I think of how good you could have been. And I look at next year's team and I still feel that way. I think the sky's the limit for this team. When you look at this team and what you think its potential is, what are your thoughts?
I feel like we're going to be a really good team. I feel like we got a lot of different people who bring different values. We got a lot of we got shooters, we got people that can handle the ball. We got everything that we need. So that's why we've been in the gym practicing, trying to learn how to get the, it's a new team. So we're gonna have a lot of new players next year. So we're in the gym now and doing Zoom meetings, trying to build that chemistry so we can develop and, win the Ivy League championship.
And David, your thoughts on the very same thing, your prognosis on the Bear team for next year?
Yeah, we got new guys now that we're trying to get acclimated in, and we understand that we'll have even more new guys next year when people are coming back from semesters off and just the new freshmen in general. So we're just trying to do our best to develop these habits now so that the 7, 8, 9 that are on campus right now are able to just carry that over for the new fellas who are going to be here in the fall. And I think once we develop those habits, everything else will fall into place. I think we have the right formula. We all know what we need to do. So once everyone's on the same page, we'll be able to achieve our goals, which are win an Ivy League championship.
And David, how have workouts been going for you and your teammates? I know initially, they were masked and socially distanced. They remain that way, but some of the restrictions have been lifted a little bit where you guys have been allowed to do a little bit more. What's it been like for you guys on the court?
Yeah, most recently, the last couple of practices, we've been able to actually play against each other. There's some 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 settings. Obviously, it's not the entire practice because we still have to remain social distance in some aspects, but it's definitely, like Coach said yesterday, a long-awaited time. I mean, we've all been eager to play against each other, have that competitive nature that comes with just playing basketball. But other than that, we've just been competitive, trying to get better on our own and as a team, whether it's our individual workouts or in the weight room. So it's been a great time. We've been enjoying it, and I think a lot of the guys are having fun going on this journey and getting better.
Jalen, since mid-March last year, you head back home, presumably. How did you stay in shape? How did you work on your game? And how good was it to get back in the gym finally, I think when it was February 4th this year?
Back home, my uncle, he recently got a job as an athletic trainer for a high school. So I was in the gym with him constantly. He had access to a gym to himself and a weight room. And he made me a little workout plan. And I was with him every day and then over the weekends. So that was good. And then it felt good being back in the gym. I've been outside and doing conditioning, but it don't beat being in the gym, around basketball hoops. It was just a great atmosphere.
Jalen, I know we've asked you this in the past, but for those who maybe weren't listening a year ago to the Coaches Show, for a kid from Greensboro, North Carolina, tell us how you wound up at Brown. Take us through the whole recruiting process and how you wound up here.
Recruiting process, it started out end of my freshman year. I got my first offer, and then offers started coming in. But around my junior year, I think that's when Brown reached out to me and Coach Martin. And the reason I'm here today is because I love the coaches. They were real good to me, and the way they checked up on me. And they were the only coaches to talk to my mother. And so that was one thing she liked. And because of that, she really pushed Brown. She was like, Brown, Brown, Brown. So that's the main reason I'm here.
And David, I've given some thought. I know that I could handle you if I was playing against you. I'm going to tell you how I would do it. You ready?
What?
Yeah, here's right away you can see it. It's coming out right there. Okay, so I get to the gym. Coach says, go ahead and start the game. I go out and there you are. You're matching up with me and you're glaring at me. So here's what I do. 15 seconds in, I sprain my ankle. Okay, that way I don't have to deal with you, and I can live to play another game. But in all seriousness, you play with what I call a quiet fierceness. Where does that come from?
I think that just comes from the competitive nature to want to win the game. I'm somewhat vocal. I don't think I'm as vocal on the court as I could be or should be at this point, but it's all about intensity, about trying to win. I don't like to lose. And I think just knowing like what I have to do, that sort of owns in my focus. And that's probably where you get like that quiet ferocity from. It's just my focus on paying attention to what needs to be done and making sure I do whatever needs to be done to win the game.
David, what is your concentration? And I read on your bio, you have an interest in sports broadcasting. Is that something you'd like to do possibly someday down the line?
Most definitely. Right now, I'm an English concentrator, specialize in nonfiction writing. So I'll take that track. When I finish with that, hopefully I'll get a chance to get into some sort of the sports world, whether it's sports broadcasting, anything in that realm. I think this year is a way to have internships and sort of get acclimated with that, get my foot in the door in some places. Obviously, Chris Berman is an alum, so that's just one of the main guys in ESPN, and just I want to be able to get into that realm and just use my knowledge of the sports world and find a way to be successful.
And Chris himself was an English major at Brown, class of '77, so you're on the right track.
Right formula, yeah.
Jalen, tell us what has been the best part of the Brown basketball experience for you. Obviously, Ivy League Player of the Year, that's an unbelievable honor, but just your thoughts on either an experience or experiences that stand out.
Best experience probably is when we beat Harvard, because Harvard with like little time on the clock. That was a good experience. Experience was like the series we had against Dartmouth, where I blocked the shot, Perry hit the three, and that was just like a momentum lift. That was like one of the best moments in like basketball for me, period. And then I just like being around the players and the coaches. Like we had like a family bond, and I feel like you can bring that anywhere. And like having a bond with your coaches and your teammates like that is something special, and you can't find that in most places.
Coach, was that the sequence against Dartmouth Jalen's referring to, where he blocked the shot, Perry hit the three, and then I think Hunsaker drew the charge on the other end of the floor?
Yeah, and you and Russ were calling it every moment of it, and it was awesome. It was great, and I know it. Like you go back and you watch that, and it represents so many of the things that we want to be about as a program. Great defense, leading the offense, unselfish play, taking a charge, sacrificing your body for the good of the team, and it's awesome to hear Jalen say that. And listen to both these guys. It's just we're so fortunate, and they were incredibly well prepared for us when we got them. But after 3 years in our program, you hear some of the phrases and the words that they use. It's all about the team, and it's all about our family and our values, and building our culture. And these two guys represent everything we want a Brown basketball player to represent on the court, off the court, in the community. And I'm just so happy, and that I've gotten to coach them, and I can't wait to get back at it with them next year. I think we've got a lot to be excited about.
David, going back 4 years or so, how did you become interested in Brown, or first become interested? What was the recruiting process like for you?
Coach Martin, he has a relationship with my AAU coach, Benny Pastor. So obviously those two knew each other, and then I'm sure Coach Pastor has some stuff to say, but Coach was very active in the recruitment since the end of my sophomore year going into my junior season. I think my junior season, right before my junior season, when I got an offer. But other than that, it was just constant, like Jalen said, constant checkups, constant making sure that I'm okay, constant just building a relationship. And I think that was the biggest thing, just building sort of a personal relationship rather than basketball. And I think that's just what made me most comfortable. University is also very close by, so it gave me an opportunity to also get my family and friends to be able to see me play, but also give me the space that a college student always needs. So it was the best of both worlds, honestly.
Jalen, two-part question for you. Number one, let's go back last year to the Duke game down there. How special was that for you being able to play in your home state, somewhat close to family and friends? That's question number one. And then question number two, what's your concentration? And after your basketball playing days are over with, what would you like to do, or what could you envision yourself doing?
Playing at Duke was real special to me. It was like one of the first times I was able to play in like more than just like my mom and dad. I had some cousins there. My brother was there, and it was just real special. Then family had like a little cookout little thing where they was watching on TV. So it just felt special that I was just having that much love and like support being home. And right now my concentration is BEO. And after my playing days, I see myself doing something with sports, but like in the business aspect, like maybe like management or something.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure that out, but right now that's what I think I can see myself doing.
Great.
And Scott, not only did he play against Duke in front of friends and family, he was dunking all over Duke. He was blocking shots. I mean, and I don't know if you guys remember, he didn't start the game, and we struggled. We didn't score the first few minutes, and then he got in there, had a couple dunks, and it was like we all just kind of breathed and settled into the game, and didn't play our best, but certainly gave Duke everything they could ask for. So it's. Jalen, the sky's the limit. Like, I think, we talk about all the great things he's done already. I just think next year, people who haven't seen him play, and nobody has in the last year, what you're going to see next year is going to be the result of a lot of hard work. And I just think the sky is the limit. He's got an incredible basketball future in front of him. And so does David, obviously, too.
All right, David, as we get set to wrap up this segment, since you want a career in sports broadcasting, here's what I'm going to do. I want you to send the Mike Martin Show to a commercial break.
Oh, man. All right. I got it. Everyone, thank you for listening. We'll be right back with the Mike Martin Show after these two messages. Thank you.
The Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, the highly recognized mark of distinction in college athletics across all divisions, both men's and women's sports. Follow your favorite team's pursuit for excellence in this prestigious annual award through thedirectorscup.com, USA Today, or L Directors Cup on Twitter. Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, the crowning achievement in college athletics since 1993.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Danielle. I'm here to present to you the Performance Fit series brought to you by Performance Physical Therapy. This is for anyone, if you're an athlete, you're exercising from home, or you're just returning to the gym. Even Bruno the Bear can do these types of exercises. We've got strength and conditioning, some flexibility and mobility, as well as speed and agility. So you can find all of these videos at brownrec.com or performanceptri.com. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to the Mike Martin Show on AM 790 WPRV and on Facebook Live. This portion of the show brought to you by the Hilton Garden Inn Providence. It's the only waterfront hotel in the city that features newly renovated rooms and a public space and bar and lounge area with outdoor seating and spectacular views of the harbor. Located at 220 India Street in Providence. Make your reservation today. Well, in this portion of the show, it is our Alumni Spotlight. And this week, it gives us great pleasure to welcome to the Mike Martin Show from the class of '79, Rich Friedman is with us. Rich, how are you?
I'm great, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, thank you for being with us. I understand you're down in Florida where the weather is nice. I hope you and your family are all doing well.
Scott, we came down here right before Halloween, and the weather's been great. And I've been Zooming a lot and sneaking some golf rounds in. And knock on wood, we're doing okay. We're going to manage through this, and I'm hoping we're in the last quarter of this, and hopefully, we'll have some normalcy as we head into the summer.
Well, Rich, can you talk a little bit about how both you and your son have, to a certain extent, been on the front line of this pandemic? I know you're on the board at Mount Sinai in New York, and your son, I think, also was there at the very beginning of this pandemic. Talk to us a little bit about that and how it's impacted you and your son as well.
So, Scott, I've been on the board at Mount Sinai for almost 20 years, and 2 years ago, I was asked to be the co-chair. So I'm the co-chair of Mount Sinai Health System. And on March 1st, almost a year ago to now, I got a call from the CEO, Ken Davis, as I was coming back from Florida, actually, for a long weekend. And he said, Rich, we have our first COVID patient. And that's basically when it all started. It was on March 1st, 2020. And it really it resonated because we had been hearing about it, in Asia and in Europe. But when we had our first COVID patient, it really struck. So it was really 2 weeks later that it was a Sunday night, and my wife turns to me. We were in Florida, and she said, we're leaving. We're going to the Hamptons. And she goes, if you don't want to come, that's okay. So we flew up on the 16th of March, and essentially all hell broke loose beginning March 17th last year. Certainly at Mount Sinai. And that's really when I'd say the pandemic went into overdrive in the New York, in the whole New York metropolitan area. And we became the epicenter of the epicenter. At one point, we were like 20% of the cases in the United States. Right. And Mount Sinai was like 10%, of all of New York State. And it was something we had never seen before. And we went into, and at that point, I really was the executive chair. I was working, 24/7 with the, senior management of Mount Sinai, dealing with all aspects of the crisis. And my North Star during that period was, how do we help the frontline workers? And you mentioned my son, and that's what happened as I personalized it. My son was a fourth-year resident at the time, so he was in the hospital during March, April, May, during the worst of it. He was in a neurological ICU, and then he would be called to the ICU whenever any of the patients had neuropathies or strokes, or they were delirious. And then he would come down to see if he could do anything. And within the first week, he more or less told me at night, he goes, Dad, I have to tell you, I'm getting called down there when these patients are really losing it. And I think every patient I've seen has died. So it became my North Star during that period of time in terms of how could I help, with what was going on. So the first thing I was able to do was we had all of this PPE, this personal protective equipment that we had pulled together in China. And I was on the phone with the CEO on March 17th. So this happened real time. And he says, we have 5 tons of equipment, masks, face shields, goggles, stuck in Shanghai. We need to get it to our hospitals in the New York metropolitan area. So immediately I had a recollection from what happened on 9/11 when I was in Asia, and I was able to get a plane ride back on NetJets, which is this, private air travel. Mm-hmm. So I immediately called David Solomon, who's the CEO of Goldman Sachs, had him call Warren Buffett and tell him that we needed to get 2 passenger planes ready to go to Shanghai immediately and go pick up 5 tons of protective equipment. And this became a story over a 3 or 4 day period that is etched in my memory, because I had my people who work for me in China helping arrange to get approvals to get the plane to fly in, to fly out, to get the people at the airport to allow the planes to get in. And then every aspect of this it reminded me of the movie Argo with Ben Affleck, where he was trying to get those hostages out of, Iran. So I named this MBD Argo. And every time we thought we were right there, a problem hit. Right when we were getting ready to get released and allowed to go, we heard that a plane just flew into China from the UK that had 33 COVID patients. So everybody working on our project, if you will, abandoned us. But we actually, by Friday, had delivered 4.5 tons. We couldn't fit it all in the planes of personal protective equipment that to this day I know saved lives.
Wow.
And it was one thing after another in terms of the challenges that we were facing. So it was, I look back on all of the experiences I had, and I also was fortunate to be at the corner of Goldman Sachs and Mount Sinai to be able to get help, raising money, getting services, contacting companies to help do joint ventures with Mount Sinai. And, those 75 days will be remembered. And when you live through a crisis like that, you bond, you learn a lot of things, you learn, unfortunately, there are plenty of crises through the last, 4 decades that we've all had, they've had to deal with. But this one was just different because lives were at stake on a regular basis. And we're actually, in the process of finishing a a documentary of those 75 days. So that's going to be pretty cool that, you know, not only doing radio, but I'm doing movies as well. So it'll be fun. So that'll be fun.
That's a great story. Wow.
Yeah. And so, Rich, now we move almost exactly a year later, and earlier in the show, we were talking about how there's more light at the end of the tunnel. And I think you feel the same way, that there's light at the end of the tunnel after all this time.
Russ, I see the end. I really, in the United States, that is. You know, I know everyone was critical about the rollout and the last mile of getting people vaccinated, but it is a miracle. It's truly a science miracle that we've had effective vaccines, 3 of them now that have been approved and are being rolled out. And we've had, I think the number is almost 90 million Americans have been at least had 1 injection. By the end of May, anyone who will wanted to have a vaccine will have gotten it. And then I think the effort's going to take a while to convince the next 100 million people that they should take it. But I think by June, a lot of big markets are going to be basically vaccinated. And I think when we go to the summer, I think it's going to be, and the good news, I think, for Brown basketball and Brown University is, I really think it's going to be normal, quote unquote, you know, school next year. I think we'll have, there'll be protocols, there'll be masks, there'll be better hygiene, they'll be careful. But I'm pretty confident that sometime between June, you know, and July, you know, we're going to stop seeing on CNN, you know, 60,000 to 80,000 new cases a day and 2,000-3,000 deaths a day. And frankly, I'm pretty optimistic about this. And you know, I've talked to the people obviously at Mount Sinai and other hospital systems, and they don't disagree. You know, you could disagree on the timing exactly, but I think the United States really, it's a miracle. And it's been exciting watching it unfold, because people were very skeptical about whether we'd ever have a vaccine. And now we have at least 3 and more on the way. And, you know, we're all going to be learning about how long do these vaccines last? When do you need to get vaccinated again? But I think slowly but surely, it's almost going to be like coming back from an injury, right? So when they tell us it's okay, you know, if you've been vaccinated, you can do the following things. Everyone's going to wonder, well, can I go to dinner with someone? Can I go inside? Can I play basketball? You know, and I think it's going to take a while for people to get comfortable that if you've been vaccinated, you know, and you're dealing not in an uncontrolled environment, you can do most things. So I'm feeling pretty good about the path that we're on, and I think it's a miracle, and I think it's a miracle of modern science. So, and I think when I look at what's going on with the stimulus package, I actually think we're heading for a fairly good recovery. So this could actually, turn what's been a horrible period into a very different kind of a, sort of environment and a period beginning sometime this summer. And it'll bode well for Brown basketball, and, and for all of our families.
It seems almost trivial to talk basketball given how serious the conversation is we've just had, but we had you on the show to have fun, and we want to relive maybe some of your years at Brown. Let's talk about that senior year. Joe Mulaney was your first year coach,
right?
And AJ Dolan was your captain, and you guys that year split with Providence. In fact, you almost swept them. Your other game against the one that you lost in overtime, 62-60. What do you remember about that season?
Well, I think the previous leadership at Brown had very high expectations of what our team was going to be able to do, because when we looked at the non-league schedule, we were in the Clemson Invitational Tournament. We played Marquette, which had Bernard Toon, and they were top 25 team, but we played away at Notre Dame. And we played Notre Dame on a Tuesday towards, I think, the end of January, like the 28th or 30th of January. The reason why it's so in my head is they lost on national TV the prior Saturday, ranked number 1 against UCLA.
Oh, boy.
And then we stepped on the court, and, Andy Dolan is shaking hands with Lambeer and Woolridge and these guys. And he's basically said, you guys better take it easy on us, because we knew that they needed revenge on someone. But it was like, so we're, the idea we're marching into the Irish fight song, and we're all Notre Dame fans at heart, right? On Saturday afternoon, watching the football games and playing, in South Bend, it was some experience. We were 29-point underdogs, and we lost by 28. Not that we were doing, But that was, certainly an experience. But beating Providence, was a very big deal.
Yep.
And also, Penn went to the Final Four that year. That was the year that was Bird and Magic. And we had won our first, I think it was 3 games in the Ivies. And then we had a Penn-Princeton weekend. And we beat Princeton also at home. And then we played Penn. And we actually played them competitively. I think they won by, low double digits or something like that. And I knew the guys from Penn because I played with them in the summer leagues. We had a very tough schedule and a very exciting one, for, an Ivy League school to be playing against these top 25 teams throughout the whole year. I mean, when you think about it, Penn went to Final Four. Marquette was a top 25 team. Notre Dame was a top, 5 team. And, I can't remember who we played Clemson in the first round. So we got beat pretty badly at their home, but, we saw the Tiger Claws. And so it was, it was a fun season, and having a, former coach of the Lakers, and, that was sort of an interesting thing. So, I think we had I guess we had a pretty good year. It was interesting. It was fun.
Yeah, so Rich, you just mentioned Joe Mulaney, and so my question is this: did you also play for Jerry Alamo?
I did play for Jerry Alamo in my sophomore year.
Yep.
Yes, big contrast.
Yes,
very big contrast between the two.
So, talk to us a little bit about now. You have a hall named after you. You and your wife supported the renovation of, I believe it was Wilson Hall. It's now called Friedman Hall. It's one of the most beautiful buildings on campus on the main green. And I understand your daughter, Jacqueline, did she go to Brown as well?
Yeah, my wife went to Brown. Obviously, I went to Brown. Jackie, my daughter, she graduated from Brown in 2008. We tried to talk my son into going to Brown, but he went to this other school in the Northeast that we couldn't talk him out of, but we have in front of Ruth Simmons. And so Brown is our family school. And I've been on the board since 2005. I'm now a senior fellow on the corporation. And I think I have 4 more years to serve till the end of 24. And it's really been exciting for us to be part of the growth and, expansion and elevation of the quality of Brown over the last 15 to 20 years. To be a top 10 school now, almost in all the different rankings, has been very exciting. And we've been very fortunate to be able to, do what we did. But there's no doubt that Friedman Hall but I have to tell you a funny story about Friedman Halls. So this is, let's call it, the first Friedman Hall. But when I was on vacation, somewhere in between when Friedman Hall was getting that year, I got a call from Bob Zimmer, the president of Chicago. And he told me about a brand new building and that they were putting up. That was a building that was going to be for presentations. And he wanted to know whether I wanted to be part of it. And I said, well, is there going to be like a presentation hall inside of it? And he goes, well, as a matter of fact, that there is. There's a second floor. It overlooks Chicago, and then it sees the downtown, and it's actually where they're going to bring dignitaries and others for big things. So I said, why don't we do that, and we can have a Friedman Hall there? And I told him about, Brown, because he had been the provost at Brown, right before that. So here's the funny thing. We now have, I think, 6 Friedman Halls on the, we have the main one at Brown. We have 2 at Chicago, one in Chicago and one in the UK. We redid the gyms at my high school with my brother at Horace Mann, and that we called the whole complex Friedman Hall. And there's a Richard Friedman gym and a Stephen Friedman gym. And then down here, my mom is at a retirement home, and they asked us to sort of contribute. So we're building an auditorium. So what did we decide to call it?
Friedman Hall.
So the last one I had to do was at Mount Sinai. And I said to those guys, I said, I want you to find me a hall. We'll call it Friedman Hall, but you just can't make it a closet. Just find something. You don't have to go too crazy. But the Brown one, we are so proud. And this was an idea that they came to us. We said, we're going to be, the supporters of the Capitol campaign, but give us your best idea of where you would want the best investment. And the suggestion was to renovate Wilson Hall. And I remember taking classes at Wilson Hall, and I remembered it so differently. I remembered it being that large classroom on the right as you walked in. And I did remember the rest of the place was a little seedy. But when I sort of toured it, right before the renovation, I couldn't believe the condition of it. That first room was tiny. And then it was like a rabbit hole in there. And you didn't want to go to the bathroom downstairs. And now we are so proud that it's got, I think, 6 large lecture halls. And I think the number is over 5,000 kids a semester are going in and out of that, out of that Friedman Hall on a regular basis. And it's not dedicated to any one department. So it's something we're so proud of. We are really proud of it. It came out fantastic. I couldn't believe what it looked like before. And I was terrified in the middle of the renovation. I was just glad that I only saw the renovation when I was up there for like trustee meetings. But I will tell you, one of the things that, that I was so excited about is I talked to Mike about this. I said, we should bring the basketball team to the commemoration. He brought the whole basketball team. And I gave recognition to that in my, acceptance speech. And I got to tell you, that resonated with me because it was a little bit of saying, you know what, I was no different than you guys, back in the late 70s. My father was he sold girls' clothes. So, this could be you someday. And to show that a basketball player from Brown could come back and be able to deliver something like this. So it meant a lot to me that Mike brought the whole team there. But hopefully that one of them, took away that, you know what, that's a pretty exciting thing. And, someday maybe I'll be up there. But that was Mike, you remember that night. So
I do, Rich. And I just remember being so, just so inspired that you wanted to involve our program and our student athletes. And, I say all the time, and Russ and Scott have heard me talk about my affiliation with Brown. It goes back to 1999 when I was being recruited. And, I've been a student athlete here. I've been an assistant coach here. I'm so fortunate to be our head coach now. And I get to meet people like you and get to meet people like Earl Hunt, my former teammate, and all the incredible folks who've worn our jersey. And now I can sit here and I can recruit the next ones, and they can look up to the folks who came before them. And, that makes me feel good. We have a long way to go, but it makes me feel really good about, the support we have from the people who've been here long before our current student athletes, and the fact that our current students, have that mentorship and they have that support. So thanks for all that you do. And again, thanks for involving our team that night. That's a night I won't forget.
The thing that, when people ask, and I talked to Chris Paxson about, Brown basketball, is that most people don't understand that, you can have a good team in a given year or given several years if you recruit a few good players. But this is the first time really in my memory that we have a program. And that you need, and I'm not telling you, Mike, anything that you don't know, but you need a program to be successful. And you need that to be instilled with, you have to have great coaches, you have to have good players, but you need a program. And it's not just, can we get a few good guys and then, win some games. That's what I think is getting exciting for, the alums who you've corralled in to be supportive and be part of, the booster group and the leadership group is your leadership towards having a real program that's sustainable, that we can grow on. And it's annual, it's every year. And it's not a matter of, did you hit the lottery and get 1 or 2 good players? Because that can happen, but it's very different to have a sustainable program. So thank you for what you're doing, because it is exciting. It's too bad, obviously, we missed this whole season, but it's going to be one of many, many things we're going to be looking forward to sort of bring us back to normality or normalcy, next fall and next winter. Because, it's something that, we all miss, but it's, as I said, thank you for what you're doing, because I think it's exciting for us, because, there's nothing more fun than being able to root for your alma mater. I mean, there is one thing, is if I could have got my son to play. I failed at that, but I tried.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all that, and we're in such good hands with Chris Paxson and her leadership, and all the folks on the corporation, and to hear you say, we have a program, that's what we're working hard to do. And I've said it so many times, when we win our next Ivy League championship, and it'll be the first since 1986, it's going to be about a whole lot more than the coaches and the student athletes. It's everyone, and we're going to all do it together. And we're so appreciative of all the support.
Rich, thanks so much for joining us on Coach's Show tonight. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. I mean, we were all looking for some fun things to do during this period, and this brought smiles to to me, and makes me feel good, especially just talking to you guys and talking about what I had to endure, and talking about Brown basketball and just catching up with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Rich Friedman, Brown basketball class of 79, our Alumni Spotlight guest this week, and we wrap up the Mike Martin Show. My thanks to Rich, thanks to Russ Tyler, and for the head coach of the Bears, Mike Martin, my name is Scott Cardici. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
This has been a presentation of Learfield IMG College.